Hi everyone, it is Fitz with your daily delivery. Hope you're doing well. I'm very good. And Monday had a press conference for us at the Veneer Football Complex with Chris Klieman and some players. And one of the topics discussed was something that Kansas State did in its 34-20 victory over UCF on the offensive side of the ball. And it was a sign of creativity. And so far this season, K-State's not been overly creative with its offense. They've run a couple Wildcat plays with Jace Brown that worked really well, and then they haven't run it since. Of course, Jace only played one snap Saturday due to, we think, a turf toe. But they did run what Chris Klieman said was not the Wildcat, with someone different at quarterback. And let's talk about that right after I remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Yep, we're closing in on 17K. Absolutely amazing. If you're not subscribing, help us out, please. And we're sponsored by Coldest.com. Coldest.com/lifeoffits is your code to get 10% off. Blake Barnett played 6, 7, 8 snaps at quarterback. He had 5 carries for 23 yards. He's a redshirt freshman, and he's known as an absolute bulldog. And so they put him in to run the ball a little bit to kind of put that quarterback power into the offense and to protect Avery Johnson. Avery was still on the field with him, and it gave an interesting look that the defense had to account for Avery and Blake at once. Now, Chris Klieman said he's not sure if they'll use it again because now it's known and won't be as less predictable. But is that true? Seriously. It was a formation with the quarterback, that kind of inverted triangle that K-State used to run. Blake Barnett quarterback flanked by 2 guys and a third behind him. There's a lot you could do out of that formation. And Klieman did go ahead and say this. Blake Barnett's a very good passer. They didn't put him in that position in this game, but will they in the near future? Now, it's not a bad thing to get him on the field and get some snaps because it's now clear Blake Barnett is the number 2 quarterback, as we kind of thought all along. And they want to get him out there, get him into the flow of the game, get him a little bit relaxed. And now pass the ball? I don't know. Maybe they'll use that against Baylor. Maybe they'll save it for later. Maybe they'll just put it away and say, that was cool. It worked. Let's not do it again. Barnett averaged 4.5 yards carry or so on his 5 carries. That's pretty good. It certainly will pick up a first down if you do it 3 times in a row. But it won't work 3 times in a row. That's Chris Klieman's point. But you can certainly build off of that just as you could have been building off of the Jace Brown Wildcat formation. Because Avery's still on the field, ready to pass or run or just kind of mix it up. The thing that K-State has struggled with, and the return of Dylan Edwards really helped, but then you didn't have Jace Brown, is a lack of weapons that make a defense account for them. In all due respect to the other running backs, they were more scared of Avery Johnson than any of them, maybe all of them combined. So defenses took away Avery. Now with Dylan out there, they can't do that. We saw Avery Johnson have some success. Now they've layered in this with Blake Barnett. What if you put him in the game, they load the box, and Blake throws the ball? And if Jace Brown's healthy at Baylor, go back to the Wildcat and build something off of that. I'm not looking for a gimmicky offense, but when your offense isn't working, you got to kind of open it up. Stress the defense, whether that's by formation, personnel, or something they just haven't seen. I'm all in on adding a little layer every game to make a defense kind of account for it. Bill Snyder once said something to me that really stuck with me and kind of exemplifies how layered his thinking was. He ran a 2-point conversion in a game when he didn't need the 2-point conversion, and honestly, the other team felt like he was running it up. It appeared that way to them, but what he did, he told me, was now he made every future opponent practice for that 2-point conversion. And he said, I do other things like that in the course of a game to make them use their time on things that we probably will never do. But if we do it and they're not ready, that coach looks pretty silly, doesn't he? Stress the coaches, just like the defense. Other teams do it to K-State. I'd like to see them, as in the Wildcats, do it more often to the opponents. Every little advantage a coach can give his team might be the difference between winning and losing. More Blake Barnett? I'm in. Leave Avery out there? Heck, why don't you put Dylan on one side and maybe even Joe Jackson behind him? And after lining up that way, Jace Brown runs the reverse. I'm getting nutty. I'm getting crazy. Football's fun. Keep it that way. Be creative and go win some games.